theme review. That's right. After requests from ones and ones of all of my viewers, I have decided that I will do a theme review for the equipment in Xenoshyft Onslaught. Uh, because I think it would be a good opportunity to look at a game that I think does a reasonably good job of theme as a sort of benchmark, starting point, so that when I review other games, we can see what I do like when I talk about what I don't. And also because this is a game that has digital copies of all of the cards, thus allowing me to make these videos. Game designers, if you want me to do theme reviews, have digital card libraries. You want me to pull out an iPhone and hit record and to be leafing through physical cards? Nobody wants that. You might see my actual face, and I'm as ugly as sin. So, let's just breeze through these really quick. The APS Pulsar Armor. I actually really like the theme on this. This is what some people would refer to as like a scry ability. You get to look at a card, and then if you don't like it, you can discard it and draw a new one of an enemy. And often, getting the theme to work on something like that really doesn't make a lot of sense. But it really does here, because the idea is this is equipment that it says always needs to know just what's waiting around the corner. So this is some sort of armor that has advanced sensors in it. And so you can look around a corner, see what kind of monster that is, look at it, and then you can decide, oh, I want to keep it there and fight that monster. Or you can be like, oh, nope, I'm not fighting that thing, and you go down a different corridor. And since the new card is drawn face down, you don't know what's down that corridor. Really works well. Excellent theme. Again, I'm talking mostly about theme here, not gameplay, although this is also very good. It's a little weird in terms of gameplay. It's a little weird that you can use these cards to get rid of bosses, and then you just don't fight a boss that round. It seems to me that if the game had the mechanics for it, discarding a boss made you draw a new boss, but not really a big deal. That's more of a mechanical thing. But mostly excellent theme. Bio Enhancer. This is a very simple card. Gives +1 power, +1 health. It's a little weird that this gives damage. This seems like a healing item. And generally, in these games, I'm not a huge fan of like, oh, medicine makes you do more damage, which you have a few places here. It's a trope in this genre, and so a lot of people think it's fine for theme. But generally, the idea, what I do like about this card is this is a cheap card that has a lot of utility. When I think of something like this is some sort of small medical device that has a little bit of a value that has some utility. It's a little abstract, and generally when we're talking here, abstract bad, theme good. Theme and abstract are on two different ends of a spectrum. The more thematic you get, the less abstract you get. The more abstract you get, the less thematic you get. So this is only moderately good, I would say. And it doesn't exactly heal, it just increases your maximum health. So it being an enhancer and not like a med pack or something makes sense. So it's like, oh, okay, this is sort of like a med pack, but not quite, because it's not healing you, it's enhancing your already existing physical abilities, which I guess explains the power. Okay, booster injection. This is the worst version. This is... good grief, this is the worst lore text. Don't ask what it is, just know that it works. No, I am asking what it is. When I look into the flavor text, I want to know what something is. Don't just be like, nah, bro. I mean, it's a stim pack from StarCraft. It sounds a little too similar to this. Bioenhancer and Booster Injection, those sound really similar in their name, and they do sort of the same thing. You need a much more specific name here to match your effect. And obviously you can't call it a stim pack, because a stim pack is another thing. The problem with the med cards in this game is that they tend to be very vague, and I almost feel like you could use any of the med names for any of the other med names. So I would maybe change the name on this. Dropship. Yeah, okay. So I never use dropships, but in terms of theme, yeah, this is a good card. Oh, you have a ship that can bring in more guys, so it allows you to grab guys from the discard pile and put them in your hand. Again, in this game, when a card is discarded, it is not dying. When one of your guys is discarded, it doesn't die. He just is running away, because he can come back when the deck reshuffles. There are cards that kill guys, that remove them from the game. And so the dropship is a thing that lets you pull guys back who have fallen back. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It does a thing that you think it would do. It's hard to use, but It makes thematic sense. Vindicator armor. I wish this had a better name that made you better understand what it is. It's explosive armor. You're wearing armor with explosives in it, so when you die, you blow up and kill the stuff, and that's what it does. That makes thematic sense. I just wish the name was a little more specific to what it did. You really have to look at the lore text. They wear it willingly, knowing that if they fall, they won't be going down alone. It's like, oh, okay, you're strapping explosives onto the guys. Okay, I understand that now. But you don't really get that from the name, other than Vindicator. Kind of makes sense. And adding letters and numbers, I mean, I guess it's realistic, but it doesn't help the player understand. I don't know what GHM stands for. I don't know the extensive lore of the Xenoshyft universe. Hawkeye gun emplacement. Yeah, okay, so it's a gun, and it shoots. It's a little weird that this is mostly really good, but it's a little weird that its ability where you tap it, essentially, to do damage. Why, that's for a machine gun? So, like, what are you doing when you tap it? If you're shooting it and wasting its ammo, why does it still give you the bonus? It sounds to me like this ability would work better for a normal assault rifle type gun. A gun, in fact, in terms of theme, I would actually switch this with the spark jumper rifle. The spark jumper rifle is you get to attack first. And so if this is some sort of like preset turret that's shooting and targeting things just as they appear, the idea of that thing giving you first strike makes a lot more sense. And if you have a rifle that maybe has an grenade launcher undercarriage attachment, then it makes sense of like, oh, I'm going to shoot the grenade and do 2 damage, but I still have the gun to do shots. So I would swap the effect of both of those. But otherwise, it is good, and it's, one is a gun, another is a gun. So the fact that I'm just wanting to swap slightly what these 2 different guns do shows that they're both pretty close, but I still would have swapped it. Because again, if this is like a gun emplacement turret that's Hawkeye, like it's auto-targeting, it should have first strike, and the gun, the like assault rifle, should allow you to to shoot the grenade to do the 2 extra damage. Okay, Hellblaster rocket launcher. I mean, yeah, this is a rocket launcher and it does damage. I suppose I would think that like a rocket launcher is something that would have some sort of special ability. I don't think I would have given it this ability, because it's like, okay, you fired a rocket to do 2 damage, you're still firing rockets. No, this is just, it's the biggest gun. The biggest thing the humans can have is our missile launcher. So, the missile launcher has the highest stats. It makes sense, and I like it. And I like cards like this, that even when they don't have an ability, because so many cards have an ability, and because the stat is unique, it still feels thematic. And that is the sign of good theme, right there. When you can give a card no ability, just stats, and because of how you've crafted the rest of the game, it still feels thematic. Okay, a grenade? Yes. You have it in your hand, you play it, it blows stuff up. You feel like you're throwing a grenade when you play this game, when you play this card. Super thematic. You can't get better than this. And so I won't have anything else to say about it. HPS Rescue Armor. This is a weird card, because it's armor that you can play from your hand in the middle of a fight. I'm not sure what's happening thematically here. What I think it's trying to do is that, like, this is like a suit of armor that's dropped from a ship, and then it's dropped into where, oh, these people need this really heavy, hard to transport armor. Fly it over to them, drop it, that person climbs into the armor and then can continue to fight. But that's me thinking up things. I don't really feel like the game is saying that. The game says it's linked to heart rate and pulse monitors. It goes where it's needed most. So that makes me think like this is armor that self-heals, which is a cool idea. But what does that have to do with why it can be played at any time, and why you can send somebody out into combat without the armor and then somehow give it to them? This is actually very unthematic, I would say. I don't know what's happening when I play this card. I have to sort of make up a story in my head, and when I'm having to make the theme as the player, that is a sign that the designer did not do their job. Okay, Templar armor. Yeah, when you look at the picture and you see, okay, there's like missiles on it that it shoots. So like this is armor, but it also has attack bonus because it has like little like missiles and guns and junk on it. That makes sense. The fact that it gives more combat when you have a weapon, okay, why is that the case? If it was said that okay, this has like auto loaders on it, which I guess is what this is, then the fact that because this armor carries auto loaders that you can hook your weapon up into, and then it helps you fight because it's automatically loading your gun. That makes sense. Again, that's me sort of having to squint at the image and determine that, but it kind of looks that way, and so I would sort of maybe assume that. And that's okay. It's not bad. I would say it's overall good. In fact, even quite good. I just wish the flavor text explains that more. Equipped with auto loaders and missile launchers, this armor proves that the best defense is a crushing offense. You have space for more flavor text. Don't be afraid to have it. Okay, moving on. The medbot. Okay, medbot. This makes an amount of sense. I like that it is. It really feels like a robot when you play it because it effectively acts as a troop. Like you can give it a gun, which like is really funny and interesting and sometimes worth it, and just a fun thematic thing. Like it's not equipped for combat, but it is a robot with arms that can manipulate things, and you can hand it a chainsaw or a rocket launcher, and then it's like, oh, this is okay. It's actually not a half bad fighter. I love that kind of thing. The fact that it gives plus 2 HP, yeah. There's a little bit of a divergence in theme in this game regarding increasing maximum HP and preventing damage. But generally speaking, the medical items are the cards that prevent damage. Like the medic prevents damage, the med pack prevents damage. So if this is some sort of med thing, shouldn't it prevent damage? The things that give you bonuses to your HP are usually things like armor. So shouldn't this just be... I almost feel like this card would be better if it wasn't called Medbot and was just called a robot. And then it's like, oh, the robot is helping you out, maintaining your equipment and doing things so that everybody has a little bit more armor. And hey, you can give it a gun, but if it's knocked out, then it's not helping you out anymore. I guess they called it Medbot because it's a medical item and they wanted it to. But yeah, it's just that's again, it's very good. I have to nitpick to find anything wrong with a lot of the theming on these cards. Okay, medical shuttle. Yeah, so this actually does healing. This doesn't do preventative damage, like I said with some of the other medical things. This just literally heals your troops, which is the most like, yes, that is what this does. I understand. You are literally healing my guys. And if they have more maximum health, this helps when they've taken damage, and I get to heal, and it heals all of them because it's a ship. Yeah, super thematic. Honestly, you can't get much better than this. Med Pack. Again, we're getting a little bit into the divergence of what does medicine do in this game? Does it prevent damage? Does it increase your maximum HP? Or does it heal the damage you've already taken? And why does this type of medical item do one and not the other? There's a little bit of inconsistency there, but it is all still within the realm of what I think medicine does in a game. Some games, it's just like, medicine, you get to draw a card, or something that's like, okay, what? Why is... It's just very abstract, and you don't have no idea why the effect that you're playing relates to the theme that's being presented. But generally, yeah, very good. The idea is you get med packs, and then if something bad happens, oh my gosh, this guy's about to die from this attack. Wait, now I have a med pack, I can keep him alive. That makes sense. It's thematic. Very good. Moving on. Plasma Arc Shotgun. Okay, so... I'm not sure what I feel about this. I feel like this would be better if it were named better. Its description is energy shoots towards anything in the way, removing the need to aim. So it's like, okay, so this is some sort of weapon that has very high accuracy. It can take out anything, because it just fires like this big charge. I think maybe the reason they gave this a cancel or reveal ability effect is that early on in the game design they were like, oh, reveal abilities are going to be something we give to swarm enemies. Like there's this swarm of all this bugs, and there's just so many of them that you can't, that they're going to just do a thing to you. It's like, aha, no, the shotgun we fire and you take out the swarm, and the reveal effect doesn't trigger. But then they just gave reveal effects to anything that wasn't a swarm. And so the idea of, okay, why this is a shotgun, why does this cancel the reveal effect but not kill the actual enemy? That doesn't make sense to me. So I think if they had named this like a stun gun or a electric gun, or even just kept the name and had the thing of like, oh, plasma tends to stun most enemies that it doesn't cauterize to death, then it's like, oh, that makes sense. The thing is about to do some effect, you hit it with this stunning thing, and its reveal effect is canceled because it gets stunned. That's what I would think that something like this would do. And then whether it's discarded or not, that's more of a balance thing. It's just sort of the idea that some weapons you empty their ammo and then you can't use them anymore, and some weapons they have an effect and then you can keep using them because maybe they have more ammo. I guess that's their argument for why they had the Hawkeye gun emplacement. You use its ability and then you keep the item because it's like, oh, it has a bunch of ammo, so you can use its effect, but then you still get the bonus from it. I guess, and I think that's probably what they're also thinking behind the chainsaw. But we'll get to that. Overall, mediocre card, honestly, in terms of theme design, but not bad. There isn't really a lot of bad ones in here. Grenade launcher. Okay, yeah. When this troop attacks, you get to deal an additional damage to one enemy in the lane. So you're firing a grenade and you do AoE damage. It makes sense. It's a little weird that you get to choose it. In that sense, it almost makes me feel like the rocket launcher would be better here, and you just have the grenade launcher have the 4 damage, so the rocket launcher is like, oh, and then I get to aim this guided rocket to go hit something over there. But, yeah, honestly, grenades do area of effect damage, and this is the closest thing that you get to area of effect damage in this game. It makes sense. And I also kind of like that a grenade launcher only has a slight combat increase, because grenade launchers are very specific to a certain role, and so then just generally giving combat isn't actually that much, because they're more specialized weapons than all-purpose weapons. But then why is the rocket launcher considered the most all-purpose weapon? See, that I'm not sure about. Moving on, Spark Jumper Rifle. So I already kind of talked about this in relation to the Hawkeye gun emplacement. This is a gun that lets you shoot first. Which is a really powerful ability, and you have to sort of be like, okay, there's 2 things in this game that make people attack first. This and the stim pack. So what does shooting first do? Well, I guess it has to do with reflexes and speed. So why does the Spark Jumper Rifle make you go fast? I don't know. Like I said, I would swap this with the Hawkeye gun emplacement. They're both 3 costs. They're both very good. They both serve different roles. And so the idea of, oh, this turret does one role, and then the just normal gun does another. Of course, it doesn't have the grenade launcher thing that I was wanting. I suppose the idea here is that the rifle is maybe the longest range item that we've seen of here, with that can be long range and precise. And so I guess the idea is you're sniping them from a distance with this long range assault rifle. But then put a scope on it or something that tells that story better. I'm sort of guessing based on what I think the card is doing instead of absolutely knowing 100%. Oh yeah, this is exactly what the theme is trying to say here. Chainsaw. I don't like chainsaws in games. Just because it's cartoonish and unrealistic. Chainsaws are not good weapons. Do not tell me how I know that. I'm just saying it's a guess. It's funny in the idea, and it's like, oh yeah, no, chainsaws would be great as a weapon. No, they wouldn't. No, you would cut halfway through the first alien, and then it would jam, and then you would spend 10 seconds trying to get it started again as you're mauled to death by the other aliens. I guess this is a space future chainsaw. It's weird to me that this is obviously this is obviously a tool and not a weapon. At least it doesn't seem like a weapon. Have something look like a sword or a flamethrower. Yeah, why wasn't this made a flamethrower? The idea of you attacking the first enemy and then that spreading onto the second one. That is exactly what a flamethrower does. You damage the first guys and then the fire spreads beyond to the guys, or it stays in place and then the guys beyond, when they move forward, they get in the fire. Yeah, this should be a flamethrower, not a chainsaw. Why is a chainsaw, the lowest range weapon of all of these weapons that we've looked at, cause trample damage? I would think a longer range thing, like the grenade launcher, makes sense. I guess they're trying to say that you're chopping through the enemy and then you're able to chop through so fast that you chop through to the next side. Why does a chainsaw make that easier? Why is that better than a gun? The only real thing I'm thinking about with a chainsaw is oh, it has less of the ammo constraints. You can just keep swinging it, which makes sense that it sticks around once you use the ability, but yeah, this should have been a flamethrower. Okay, Pulsar Bomb. This is not quite as good as the grenade in terms of theme. So the grenade is good, you throw it, it does damage. The Pulsar Bomb, this looks more like C4 that you set up ahead of time in a location, which makes me think it's going to operate more like the mine, and the mine is really good, but in terms of theme. But that's not what's going on here. This does damage, like the grenade, so it's like, okay, this is in keeping with the theme of explosives. You throw grenades, you throw pulsar bombs, well, it's more you set it up ahead of time, but it's an explosive, so you can kind of squint there. Now, it canceling a reveal effect, I actually am better with than you would think. So the idea here is that this is like C4, you set up on a wall, you know there's enemies on the other side, you blow it up and you destroy the enemies before they even see you. So they don't get a chance to, quote-unquote, reveal, because you've blown a thing up into them instead. That's cool. And I guess because it's reversing the polarity of a shield, I always thought that meant that like it's a bomb attached to a shield, and the shield is like directing the explosion in a specific direction. So generally above average in terms of theme, but a little odd. Could be better. It still feels like, okay, I have these explosives in my hand, I can use them. But if you're setting it up ahead of time to blow open a wall, why in the game is this used as a reaction? Like, oh snap, there's aliens, activate this. I guess the idea is that you set up all these traps ahead of time and you're just choosing when to trigger them, which just makes sense. So this is fine. This is fine. Pulsar shield. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, we're about to get stampeded by a giant T-Rex tentacle demon. Press the button to turn on the shield. Oh great, we suffered less damage. They hit the shield. The shield can only do so much. You know, it takes a lot of energy, so you activate it the one time. That feels like how shields work in sci-fi. It makes sense. I know what I'm doing. I see the story. I can understand it. Okay, scout drones. So this lets you swap the position of two guys. No. These don't carry guys. Like, call it like a jetpack or drop drones. Like a thing that can carry a guy. This gives you information. What is it? Having more, and it even says, I wish knowing more of what's coming makes it better, but it doesn't. Like, this seems like more like having an effect like what the pulsar does, the pulsar armor, but obviously you don't. You want an effect in the game that lets you swap the position of two people. Like a truck? Just have like a truck? All you have are flying machines. Have this item be a truck. Just a normal truck. You get to drive and swap the position of some people. That makes so much more sense than like a drone that no one rides on that gives you more information. I guess having more information lets you redeploy your troops, but yeah, I just think that this should be some sort of anything that can carry guys. Okay, stim pack. I do actually kind of like this. So it gives you the same effect as the rifle, which I guess if we're going with the idea that the rifle is more accurate, the idea is that you take the stim pack that makes you more perceptive and able to, and it like slows down. Time stops, purpose becomes clear. So it ups your adrenaline, so everything's moving slowly, so you can fire more accurately, and thus having those higher reflexes and speed, you are able to do first strike. But then it also has medical properties, and so it heals 1 damage. Yeah, that works. You want to still be consistent in your theme, though. You're given a very powerful ability of attacking first, and so when you look at all of the cards, you got to be consistent across all of them. And it still feels like either you could have gone with the rifle being the thing that gives you the first strike, or the med pack or the stim pack giving you the thing with the first strike. And both of those you could have made an argument for. But the fact that you've gone for both sort of weakens the theme on both a little bit. But just a little bit. It's still mostly very good theme. Lifeguard armor. Discard this card to heal 1 troop in your lane equal to half this troop's total HP rounded up. Wish it had flavor text, but yeah, okay, so this is armor that's self-healing. That's actually quite good, and it makes sense. It's like, okay, I have a guy with like 8 health. I put this on, he has 10 health, then he takes 8 damage, I'm down to 2. I use this, and then he gains, I think, like 5 or something. I don't know if it's remaining or later. It's actually kind of hard to do the math on this. That's why I'm glad the app does it for me. But generally, yeah, I like the idea of this card. It's a when I see Lifeguard armor, like, I don't even need any flavor text to know what this does. But put flavor text. You have space for flavor text. Always put flavor text if you can, guys. It always makes the game better. How hard is it to put words? How hard is it to put words in your game? You know how hard, easy it is to type words? You just push buttons and you just make words. Coding is hard. Drawing a picture is hard. Typing words and then putting words? Come on, super easy, comparatively speaking. Okay, void mine. I actually quite like this. Yeah, it's a mine. You set the mine down and you set it down ahead of time. See, this is so much more thematic than the satchel pulsar bomb thing. Because it's like, oh yeah, I gotta set this mine up ahead of time, but the mine doesn't know friend from foe, and if I put it in a space with like another troop, it's going to damage that troop. So you kind of am like, okay, we'll set up the mines here, and then you can use it as a, oh, well, when this guy gets attacked, the mine will go off and kill the alien, but also probably kill him. Or you can be like, oh, there are these empty spots. We put the mines there. It's really good. It's really thematic. And it really makes you make decisions that make it feel like, oh, yeah. You know, mines are double-edged swords. You got to think about how you want to use them, and you got to set them up ahead of time. They aren't instants. Yeah, excellent card. Okay, Titan armor. Yeah, I mean, you don't really need to explain why. It's just thick armor. It would be better if there was some sort of statement as to why this is the thickest armor. But if you're going to have a big, thick, cool armor, Titan armor is a fine name. And generally, yeah, it's really good. It feels, again, it's similar to the rocket launcher that it still feels thematic. Because the cards with no abilities have these super high stats, and the super high stat feels like the ability. So generally, good, I like it. Okay, Ajax Battlesuit. Ooh. I hate to tell you. This theme is really bad. It's really, really bad. This card has the ability, once per round, if this troop kills an enemy, all troops in lane gain +2 power. Okay. Let's search the flavor text to determine what is going on here. It said that one Ajax can turn the tide of any battle. How? How is the Ajax turning the tide of the battle? What is going on thematically when an Ajax kills a man, kills an alien, blows up some tentacled monstrosity? Why does everyone else have bigger guns now? Have some sort of like thing about it having targeting protocols or some sort of supercomputer which analyzes weaknesses or some sort of tactical HUD that allows it to pass along information to the rest of the troop. Or just say, oh yeah, Ajax are often operated by the officers. They're the most intelligent of the Nortech soldiers, able to command their forces and inspire morale, or something like that. Anything. Anything would have been good then, oh yeah, no, Ajax are great. Make it up yourself. Do your own game design, idiot. What, you wanted us to do it? You paid us money to do game design? No. Bad players. You do our job for us. But the art is very cool. Okay, Defender Suit. Oh, now we're talking. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this thing projects shields. Oh, that's so cool, and it has all this HP. Man, look at all that HP. I get it, because it has shields. It's a defensive shoot. It's a giant walking battery that, yeah, it can fight too. And it can project its shields to protect other guys. That makes so much sense. Thematic. It's great. And that's what I gotta say about this. It's great. It's an excellently designed card. Feels very thematic. Defender, Exosuit. I love it. Don't have anything else to say about it. Really good. Okay, Field Medic. Yeah, okay. I mean, this has the same effect as the Med Pack, so I really like the consistency there. And that shows thematic consistency. Other places we showed thematic inconsistency, like with the Stim Pack and the Spark Jumper Rifle. This shows thematic consistency. The Med Pack and the Medic have the same effect. So the Medics just basically have the Med Pack you're bringing with them, and because the effect stacks, having Medics and Med Packs is fine. And it doesn't... That is a problem sometimes you have in thematic games where it's like, yes, we either want the Doctor or the Medical Kit, but since they both do the same effect, it's actually not worth it and we only want one or the other. Whereas in real life, you're like, wouldn't the Doctor be the one to use the Medical Kit better? And so you should have some sort of super better extra ability if you have the Doctor and the Medical Kit. This has that, where it stacks and it feels good. And yeah, good design. Okay, Hyperion Assault Battery. Yeah, okay, so it's a little weird that in the game it shows it firing missiles and this looks more of like a howitzer artillery type of thing, but Regardless, it looks really cool. It's got big guns, and it makes sense. This is the big gun mech. There are its big guns, high stats. It plants itself in place, so I guess it's not very maneuverable, so it has less of the health. And since it's sort of like an artillery piece, the idea is that it doesn't really do the direct damage itself. It's supporting, and so you have to have someone else do the damage, and it's like, aha, target acquired, firing artillery. Excellently designed card. Honestly, fabulous theme here. I understand what is going on when I use this ability. It has its missiles, it fires its missiles, but it's still a tough mech and can still fight afterwards. Paratrooper. Oh my goodness. Oh, man. In the Hall of Fame of thematic cards, this card will be up there. It will look down from on high to lesser cards and laugh to itself of why you could not be as thematic as me. Paratrooper feels so good. You can play it from your hand, and when you do, you can play the armor and the weapon with it, because there's the paratrooper with his jetpack, and he's up in the dropship, and you're not sure when you want to play this guy. You're looking around, it's like, oh, hold on, there's some enemies. Paratroopers drop in. The paratroopers jump in with their jetpacks. They drop into the middle of the battle, and you're like, haha, I am here. I love it. It's perfect. It's the perfect card. And there may be multiple perfect cards. And honestly, all of your cards should be as good as this. And the art looks good too. Yeah, no, this is good. This is the kind of card you want to think of when you're thinking of really good thematic design. Okay, Ranger. Yeah, okay, so this is just basically like an upgraded version of the militia. And so you're like, what do you call an upgraded militia? Well, I guess a ranger, and that sort of it has to do with your lore. It's I guess like a police officer, like an officer of the civilians, because your first tier is basically just the civilians, then you have the soldiers, then you have the mechanized soldiers, and so this is like, and so yeah, I like that it's talking about field promotions here because it explains what is going on when you're burning a troop to get a better troop. You're not killing the guy and then buying a better guy. No, no, no. You are field promoting the guy into a stormtrooper or into a paratrooper or into an Ajax. You know, I actually really like that this is here. Even though the militia has the same effect, you know, I kind of wish the militia had a similar thing saying what was going on, but then you'd be duplicating your lore, and I'm not crazy about that. Okay. Stormtrooper. Okay, this is fine. This is like normal soldier guy. And those are often really hard to design. Because often in games you're designing a bunch of really weird and cool ideas, like, oh yeah, like chainsaws and rocket launchers and these shield mechs and then you have like deflective shields. Like, okay, so how do you design regular man? Regular human man? This is fine. It's like, okay, this is just a normal soldier trained to be a normal soldier, and what can the normal soldier do? He can shoot. And so you give him the same effect as the Hawkeye gun emplacement, which is fine. Again, I still wish that those were swapped in terms of their effect. Maybe if you showed him having grenades or something, that would make sense. Like, oh, these guys are equipped with grenades. That would be a little better, but generally, good job. Good job here. This is a fine design. Okay, I'm going to go back and look at... I'm not going to look at the aliens. I might do another video where I do that. It's the Nortech expansion. Right, okay. I'm not going to look at the aliens because the aliens are... It's kind of its own thing, and the pictures are really gross. But if you want me to do it, I will. But let's talk about the expansion content, because this stuff's really good. I'm going to talk about just the Nortech. So you have like the super versions, basically, of all the items we have, which, in terms of design, love it. But let's talk about the theme. Okay. Upgraded Pulsar Shield. Reduce all damage. All troops in this lane suffer this round by 1. So that's cool, and it's called a blowback, so it does reaction damage. That makes sense. I understand what's going on. It's like, oh, this is a different kind of shield, as opposed to the other shield, which is like, this individual guy takes a big hit from happening. That's like, oh no, this is like a passive shield. That, like, for an entire round, everybody just has shields. And then when an alien tries to touch them, they get zapped. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, so that's a different kind of design. Is it better? Is it worse? Well, it does a different thing. And it feels different, and it feels like a supercharged version. Good design, I would say. Death Ripper Plasma Saw. If this troop damages an enemy, kill that enemy. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I guess. I don't exactly understand why plasma is a, like, poison. Like, I would think, you would name it some sort of, like, radioactive poison thing, or some sort of thing that implies that, like, if it just touches the alien, it kills it. And it's a little weird that it gives a damage bonus, but I guess that's to get past shield swarms. I wish it had something more to do with poison, but it's not that unreasonable. Mediocre theme. Flashbang armor. Okay, yeah, so this is really good, I would say, in terms of stopping a reveal effect. It's like, okay, this armor has some sort of built-in ability to shoot a flashbang at the enemies that doesn't blind the wearer. And it can be this, like, reaction shot. But it's experimental, so it can actually damage you. So I guess if it's damaging you, it's like, okay, no, it's experimental. It actually does blind, like, the user and hurt them, but it can cancel a reveal effect. That feels super thematic. I really like that. Good design. Experimental savior armor. The first time this troop would be killed, it is instead healed. Amazing. Wait, this costs how much? Okay, that's funny, but it's not really great design. It's not really great flavor text. See, what I would think is, if I were, so this is actually quite good, but if I were to re-theme the flavor text, I'd be like, armor is so intricate that even after the user dies, it can continue to operate. Or armor is so mechanized that even when the user dies, it can continue to operate. And so the idea is that when the person dies, the armor itself still functions and still is moving around shooting. And it's like, oh, that's even more thematic. I mean, that's how I would re-theme it personally, but overall, it's fine. It's like, okay, this is the upgraded healing armor. So it does super good healing. It saves you from death. Still quite good theme. Okay. Upgraded retribution armor. Each time an enemy damages this troop, deal 2 damage to that enemy. Yeah, okay. So this is the updated... It says there's a slight chance of overload, but there isn't. There actually isn't any bad thing that can happen to you when you equip this. This card has a slight chance of overload. It does self-damage. So I feel like the flavor text should be swapped on these two cards. Not on my watch. Makes more sense for a thing that's just good. It's just like you jump in front of the alien, you're like, not on my watch. It attacks you, and then it takes reflective damage. I also would like if it, like, explained what's going on here. I guess it's saying, when it's talking about overload, it's saying that the armor is electrified. But there I'm getting into guessing. And you don't want to guess. You don't want to make it where the player has to guess what the theme is. But generally, pretty good theme. Vanguard armor. Reduce all damage that you suffer by 1. Oh, yeah, this is... with this, they just might survive. Yeah, this is really great. This is, I mean, in terms of gameplay, whenever you draw this, it's like, oh, yes, the Vanguard armor is excellent. It's passive armor. I would have some sort of flavor text saying that it has nanobots that auto-repair, or something like that. Something to explain the persistent health. Because how armor works every other place in this game is that it's like, okay, you put on this extra coat of armor, and then the aliens can tear through it with their little stabby arms to when you're down to normal, and they can rip the armor off, and then it's gone. But it's like, oh, this has a persistent thing, where every time you're attacked, it gives you at least some. So is it like auto-healing, auto-repairing? I would guess it's auto-repairing. Maybe imply or say that. But overall, it's fine. I can figure out well enough the idea of what's going on here, just from the mechanical effects of the card, which is good. Sometimes the mechanical effects of the card are so specific that you don't need a whole lot more theme, but still do have the extra theme, because then it's just so much better. Unless you don't have room for flavor text, like the Paratrooper, for example. Not a lot of room for flavor text, but that's okay. It does still have flavor text, but it's just so good. Okay, Atlas armor. Unstoppable power, used with caution. So I'm guessing with it being called Atlas armor, this is armor that has a lot of, like, physical strength, which is okay. All right, that explains why it gives you +3 attack. So you're literally ripping the aliens apart. Why does that damage you? It says use with caution, so I guess that's implying that the damage. That's sort of saying, okay, it does damage you when you use it. Explain why. Have some sort of thing talking about it overexerts the adrenal glands, or it's experimental and it can rip your arms out of your sockets, or something, something to have a better idea so I don't have to guess. But generally, okay, all right, this is armor. The gimmick behind this armor is that it's very strong, and it also makes you very physically strong, unlike the other armors, which are just a barrier. I'm guessing that's what it does based on this, although it seems to be showing shield projectors on the arms, which confuses me because it doesn't have any more armor than a normal Titan armor. But overall, it's pretty good. Okay, genetic bioenhancer. Well, okay, the other thing was just a bioenhancer. Was that not genetic? I guess this is reprogramming your genes. When a troop attacks, it deals double damage for that attack. Okay, I actually don't like this a lot in terms of theme, because this is saying we can make them better, stronger, faster, but at what cost? Well, the cost is 3 Xenoshyft and nothing else. It doesn't have any negative side effects. And if this is some sort of, like, permanent upgrade, why is this a one-shot? A genetic bioenhancer, like, man, we're going to reprogram this guy's DNA to be, like, a super cool guy, so that for a single attack, he can be better. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Wouldn't it, if he was reprogrammed genetically, he would be able to do, like, it would be a permanent change to his stats? Yeah, no, bad theme. This is anti-theme, actually. The theme that you're describing it as is the opposite of what it does. Yeah, this is so bad I wouldn't know how to change it. And that's when it's really bad. It's like, I don't know how I would fix this card. Which, and it stands out because the theme on all the other cards, generally speaking, is so good. Yeah, it's like, why does this one give attack, but the other one gives health and attack? The other one was a small, useful thing to help a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, a little medicine, a little injection. Whereas this thing is like, you can have absurd damage. It's like, okay, why is my rocket launcher now double powerful? Oh, it just doesn't, yeah. Okay, Hades Glaze Plasma Rifle, once per round. If this troop is not the first troop in the lane, deal 4 damage to one revealed enemy in this lane. Yeah, I like that. It's like, okay, this is a big rocket launcher that you kind of have to set up, and, you can't just use it in point-blank range, because, yes, that's one thing I don't like in games, when you can just use a rocket launcher like a shotgun, or like a sniper rifle, for that matter. Rocket launchers very specifically serve a specific role, and it has a lot of limitations, and so I like cards like this that give those limitations. And it's like, yeah, deal 4 damage. That's more than a grenade. Like, this feels more like what a rocket launcher is than the other rocket launcher. And that's really good, honestly. I really like that. It's kind of... It has theme and consistency, though, with how the other cards are. Because, again, this has an ability very similar to the Hawkeye gun emplacement. Not the rocket launcher, though. If you were wanting to have theme consistency, you would have the rocket launcher have the direct damage ability, and then this upgraded version is a better version of the direct damage ability. And it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because the grenades are direct damage abilities, so explosives are direct damage abilities. But no, that's not how it's designed. The Hawkeye gun emplacement is a direct damage ability. So the only real problem here is theme and consistency, which I suppose isn't a problem with this card in specific, but more of the design philosophy. So I wish that could be a little better. Okay, Smart Link Armor. Right weapon for the right job. Okay, once per round, equip 1 weapon card from your discard pile. Alright, what does this do? I understand, and when I say that, I'm saying what is happening thematically. If I were to tell you to create a scene in which the Smart Link Armor is used to get an extra weapon, and everyone who has played the game is going to be like, yes, that is what I thought was happening when this item was used. I don't think you would be consistent. I don't think people would agree. I do not know what's happening here. Does this armor have, like, weapon compartments in it? It's a smart link, so maybe it's a comm system. It has really good comm systems, and you can communicate for another weapon, but why not for anything else? It's really not that great. If I were to retheme this, I would probably change the name, and I would have something in here about armor that manufactures ammo inside of it. And so the idea is that when you've discarded the weapon, it's like, okay, I ran out of ammo. Oh no, I have the Smart Link armor. I will produce more ammo for this weapon and reuse it. That's not great theme, but it's at least better than this, which is nothing. I have no idea what this card does. It is nothing to me. Moving on. Pulsar Bomb. Lightbringer Pulsar Bomb. bomb. Okay, so this is the upgraded pulsar bomb. And I actually like this. It really feels like a blast radius. You know, first one does 3, next one 2, next one 1. It's like, okay, yeah, it dissipates as it goes. That's great. That is great theme. Excellent theme. I also like that it doesn't cancel the reveal effect, and so whether or not it's better than the normal pulsar bomb is kind of a question. Because it actually costs the same as a normal pulsar bomb, but it doesn't cancel the reveal effect. It's just a really good explosive. Excellent theme. Great. Wonderfully done. Okay, LMT Responder Dropship. I don't think I've ever used one of these. Deploy one troop with any equipment from your hand into a lane as though that troop were an instant. Okay, so this turns anything into a jetpack trooper. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I understand what's happening. This ship drops the guys right down, whereas like a normal dropship, it pulls it into your hand, so it's more of like a logistics thing, where before the fight you're able to move people around, whereas this thing, it's like, oh man, this is the really good one. This one just drops them right into the combat itself, and they jump right out into the swarm. I love it. It makes sense. It's good. I wish the normal dropship was better, so I would buy it more and I would see more of these. Okay, Bioincendiary launcher. Okay, I love the name. That makes me think, it's like, oh wow, okay, so it like fires bacteria that emit radiation or like flames or something, like tiny bombardier beetle bacteria gun. That's cool. And I guess the effect makes sense too. You target an enemy, each time that enemy is dealt damage, increase that damage by 2. Okay, so it's sort of like you set an enemy on fire, and then it'll burn. Although it's not a passive burn, other people have to shoot it more. Maybe what's going on with a bioincendiary is you shoot it, it does a bunch of damage, and then it like lights up with some sort of bioluminescence so that other people can target it better and do more damage. The fact that I'm kind of having to guess there means it's not quite perfect in terms of theme, but it makes me think, and overall, reasonably good theme. But the fact that I'm having to sort of think of multiple explanations of what it is a bad sign. Heat Lance Shotgun. Okay, so this is the upgraded shotgun. Discard this card while equipped. Deal 3 damage to one revealed enemy and to cancel any revealed ability it has. Okay, so this essentially has the exact same problem as the other shotgun, so I won't rehash this. This is just the better version that also damages. And that's good. In terms of the ways that this is different from its downgraded version, it's actually very good. It's like, oh, this is the better one. Not only does this stun, it also does 3 damage. But, like I said, the whole canceling a reveal effect with a shotgun does not make sense to me. Okay, moving on. Prototype Medusa gun emplacement. Yeah, this is a little odd. So you target something, and then when that thing is dealt damage, you deal 2 damage to it, and then 2 damage to the thing next to it? Okay, well, one of the ways that this is thematic is that it is a gun. Guns do damage, and this does damage. So, like, why is it spreading, but why can it not shoot itself and have to wait for someone else to shoot? These are questions that the theme doesn't immediately answer. Medusa makes me think of like a bunch of tentacles or a bunch of different separate things that work together. I guess it's firing a prism laser that spreads out, but then why do you need someone else to hit it first? Yeah, not great. Not great. Okay, prototype spark rifle. You may have this troop deal its damage to the first and last enemy in this lane when it attacks. If you do, burn this card after the attack. Okay, so this is actually kind of interesting. It has the laser sight, so I guess, and the normal sight on it. So the idea is that you can use it for long range, so you can hit the thing at the end. I also love the design on this because this does not give you first strike, like the other one does. But the fact that you can attack 2 enemies is really good. Like, that's really strong. And so it's a side grade more than an upgrade. But in terms of theme, it's like, okay, this thing is good because it can be used at short range and long range. But why does it not get the first strike ability like the other one does? That I can't answer, so for that reason, medium theme. Okay. RDM Corpseman Doc Bot. Yeah, I like this. It's like the normal robot, but then they just gave it, you know, guns and damage and stuff, and injectors and stabbies. So it has 3 damage. When this card is played, deploy it into a lane. It becomes a troop. All troops in this lane gain... This means, like, the phase, HP. When another troop in this lane is damaged, you may kill this troop to prevent that damage. Yeah, I like this. It's like the upgraded Doom bot. It's called a corpse man, so I guess the idea is that it's able to revive a dead body. I guess is what's going on here. Honestly, pretty good theme. Each of the individual things that it does, I feel like I understand based on what it is. Lazarus Med Pack. When a troop would be killed, instead move that troop to the end of the lane and heal it to 1 HP. Each time that troop advances, it heals 1 HP. Yeah, okay. Everybody always overuses Lazarus as a coming back from the dead thing. A lot of people came back from the dead in the Bible, okay? It wasn't just Lazarus. There was a whole lot of people who were raised from the dead, but everybody talks about Lazarus because, okay, he was in the book longer, and there was more of a story about him. It's just a little weird to me that people seem to think Lazarus was the only person in the Bible who died. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This is completely irrelevant to the theme. Yeah, no, this makes sense. It's a thing that reses somebody, and it even heals them after the fact. So I guess, and since it sort of looks like a backpack thing or something that you strap onto somebody, and so then it's actually gradually healing them. I don't necessarily know what's going on mechanically, like in terms of like what's going on scientifically here, but I understand, like it makes sense to me. You slap this onto somebody, it brings them back, and then it's slowly healing them. That all makes sense for a super med pack, a kind of thing it would do. It does everything you want. It brings you back, keeps you from dying, and then it slowly heals you. And hey, maybe it makes your hair no longer gray. Okay. RDM Madcap Stim Pack. So the Super Stim Pack, for its next attack, one troop deals double damage, and it deals its damage before enemies attack. I wish there was still a better theme explaining it. The theme on the normal Stim Pack is actually very good and explains. You know, it clears your mind, it slows down time, your reflexes are better. And this is like a super version of that. So maybe specify something that you're able to hit, or that it increases your intelligence so that you are able to identify weak points instantaneously. So give it a little better theme, but overall, yeah, it's good. It does the job. Okay. Nano Surge Injection. There are some slight side effects. Oh, really? What are the side effects? Let's look. Each time this troop is dealt damage, it may deal a certain amount of damage to one revealed enemy. I don't see any side effects in there. Do you see any side effects? This is an instant card that can get... Now, the instant, I guess, makes sense that it's an injectable, so it's not something you have to look up ahead of time. That makes sense. And it gives HP. I guess Nano Surge is you're injecting them with nanobots, and so it does a bunch of stuff. And like if an alien bites you, the nanobots get into them and damage them. That's sort of what I'm guessing what's going on, but it says there's side effects. I don't see any side effects. Anti-theme. You would put anti-theme on your card. No, don't do it. Don't put theme that is the opposite of what the card actually does. But, I mean, nanomachines are kind of this, like you wave your hand and you can do a bunch of cool stuff. And I guess this card, you wave your hand and you do a bunch of cool stuff. I wish it was a bit more specific and the lore was a bit more specific. I'd say slightly below average in terms of theme, but I've definitely seen worse. Okay. Stronghold Medical Shuttle. Prevent all damage one troop would suffer from an attack or ability. Valkyrie Inbound. Hold until arrival. So I generally like this, except I'm not crazy about the flavor text, because the idea here is that someone's about to die and then a ship comes in and picks them up and takes them back. And keeps them from dying. Although it doesn't take them back. They stay where they are. So it heals them remotely, I guess? So already I'm asking questions, which is a bad sign. But generally, okay, alright. You have this ship, it comes in, it saves you from dying when they would. And it prevents all damage. So yeah, I guess it just like picks them up from the battlefield. And they just don't take the attack. Feels like this thing... That feels more like what a shield would do in terms of theme consistency with what they've had their cards do, but that's fine. Now, saying hold until arrival, I actually don't like that, because that's implying that there's like a wind-up to this card, but it's not. It's a reaction card. You don't need to tell them hold until revival. You say, oh, we're here right now. We got you. You don't need to hold. You don't need to hold, actually, until revival. We're here, and we save you immediately, because that's what the card does. So that's a slight amount of anti-theme, but overall, decent card. Doomsday Void Mine. It's a better version of the Void Mine. It's a bigger bang. Calling it Doomsday is good. The Void Mine is a really well-designed card. Good card. Moving on. Guardian Angel Drones. Prevent 2 damage from an enemy reveal ability, and then deal 2 damage to that enemy. Thematically, that makes a reasonable amount of sense. Threat detected, threat assessed, threat terminated. This card is horrible in terms of mechanics, or in terms of gameplay. Like, this is a really bad card to use in the game. But it makes sense. They're these robots. They just kind of they're going around. They're Guardian Angel Drones, so they can move in, stop a surprise attack damage, and then even shoot him back. It's weird that they can't shoot back just anytime. It feels like if this thing has guns on it, why can't I just be like, Sparky, shoot the alien? Aw, man, sorry, I can't. He didn't use a reveal ability, so I can't shoot him, man. It says right here in my contract that I cannot shoot aliens except for the ones that use reveal abilities. Which implies that there's some sort of like reflection thing going on, like you turn the attack against them, but that's implication from the effect, not implication from the theme. And you want the theme and the effect to mix together like a beautiful soup where you can't tell one thing from the other and it's one flavor. I'm getting two different flavors here. They are decent flavors, but you don't want two different flavors in a card. You want to have one flavor. Okay. Inferno Grenade. Okay, so some sort of fire grenade. Deal 3 damage to an enemy. Each time that enemy attacks or advances in lane round, deal 1 damage. Yes! This is how you do fire in this game. Not some other kind of thing where you have to attack them to have the fire happen. No, you have caught this enemy on fire, so anytime it does a thing, it will burn more. That's really good. Excellently designed. It feels like when I throw this grenade in the game that I have caught a man on fire. And that makes me happy. Wait, what? Don't listen to that. Okay, moving on to the super versions of the soldiers. I'll try to breeze through these. This is the Super Ajax Battlesuit guy. The theme on these is really hard to do because they're mostly one-liners. He basically... He has the normal effect of the Ajax Battlesuit. I hate that he doesn't have a helmet here. That's dumb. And he also has, like... When this troop is killed, you do extra damage. So this would all work if the art was a little different. If the art showed him inside the stomach of a monster and he was like ripping out its heart or punching through it or something, then I'd be like, oh, I get what's going on. This is a guy who like gets eaten by the monster and then rips it up from the inside. That's pretty metal. But that's not really what we see here. And so for that reason, it's not great. Like, it could be a lot better. And again, I don't know what's going on with the Ajax abilities and why they give bonuses. Okay, Captain Blitzkrieg. You may deploy this troop anytime. You could play an instant. The first time this troop attacks each round, it deals its damage before enemies attack. At the end of each round, you may return this troop to your hand. Okay, yeah, no. The normal paratroopers make a lot of sense. This super paratrooper makes a lot of sense because it's like, oh, he can drop down, but he can also fly back up and then wait around and hang out in your hand and then drop back down again on another turn to a specific lane or be jumping from lane to lane. It's so good. And for some reason, his secondary effect does not work. And he's like the super version, so he jumps down and he's like shooting as he falls. And so he gets that first strike ability. Yeah, Captain Blitzkrieg is great. Also, Captain Blitzkrieg is the coolest name ever. Since Blitz means lightning, and Blitzkrieg means lightning assault, and it's like lightning comes from the sky, and it comes... Yeah, no, it's great. The only problem with this is that for some reason in the digital version, I do not, for the life of me, know how to pull him back into my hand. But even without that ability, he's a great card. Okay, moving on. Corporal Saviour DeWitt. Yeah, I mean, you call her Savior. Her ability is she keeps someone from dying, places it at the end of the lane. She grabs the guy, pulls him back, and like, well, I'll save you, buddy. Here, have a Band-Aid, and you're at 1 HP. I saved your life. Ha ha ha. I'm a savior, hero medic. I love it. You can't do better than this. This is just great design. Okay. Lieutenant Doombringer Hanks. Okay, it's a cool image, but let's see how the theme is. Once per round, deal 8 damage to one revealed enemy, and then deal 8 damage to the first troop in that lane. Okay, so what we got going on here is this idea that he shoots, but he shoots indiscriminately, and your guys are going to take damage too. He just sort of fires into the front line and deals a bunch of damage. I wish the lore text explained that, or had some line about someone being like, "No, we're danger close," or "We're still in the area of fire." It's like, I don't care. Victory or death is too vague and cliche. Have something sort of illustrating that this is a guy who just blows up the aliens and he doesn't care who he hits, and because you have a negative effect here. And why is it certain cards you're like, oh yeah, watch out, there's a negative effect on this card, and then there isn't one. And then you have cards that do have a negative effect on them, and then you don't have any hint on that. And then some you do have a negative effect and you do hint on it. Be consistent, and better than that, be good. If you have a negative effect, hint at it. If you don't have a negative effect, don't hint at it. Moving on. Major Killer Whale, Clay. Each time this troop is damaged, deal 3 damage to one enemy in this lane. Once per round, when a troop is damaged, this troop may suffer that damage instead. Okay, so this is the super shield version. The normal shield guys can only absorb up to 3. He can absorb more. He has more shields. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I wish the art showed, like, that his shield was electrified or something. Because I think that's the idea. Because every time he takes damage, he deals 3 damage to the... Well, it's one enemy, so it doesn't have to be the guy who damaged him. So that's a little bit of theme incongruity. But overall, not that bad. The original shield guy made a lot of sense. This is the upgrade. This is the heroic version, so he just has better versions of the abilities. So for the most part, that makes sense too. It's just a little weird that you can damage anything. Okay, Sergeant Grim Reaper Deckard. Every failed mission. Every massacre. Always the lone survivor. Okay? I actually hate this. And here's why. This guy's called the lone survivor. This guy can't also be called the lone survivor. That said, what does this guy do? Well, he's a stormtrooper guy, and each time a troop in this lane is killed, deal 2 damage to one enemy in that lane. Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense either. Why is he able to shoot better when someone else dies? Have a line in here about him that he has a tendency to get really mad when one of his people dies, or like he has a, or something, or something about a vengeance that he always avenges, or like the Grim Reaper always avenges his fallen comrades. Something like that, so that I get at least an idea of what's going on, like, psychologically here. Because, really, the whole, like, he died, now do better damage, that's something that's been associated with explosives. So are we implying that this guy puts explosives on everyone else secretly, so that when that person dies, they blow up and kill the other people? And is that why he's the lone survivor? Because he put explosives on everyone else? Wait. Is this guy actually super thematic, and that actually makes a lot of sense and is really dark? And now I actually love the card? You decide in the comments section. Moving on. Okay, Hunter-Killer Bishop. Each time an enemy is killed in this lane, this troop gains power until the end of the round. So I kind of like it. He's got these trophies. It's only death, don't take it so seriously. That's a weird thing for the Heroic Ranger to say. Because, like, he kills aliens. It's not like he benefits from other people dying. I feel like that's what this guy should have. But he actually has the opposite of that. He does take death seriously because he does more damage. Or maybe he straps explosives onto them. But for this guy, I guess I like the idea that he gets trophies and that makes him stronger. It's a little weird. Maybe something about him being able to use the aliens' claws and poison against them would have been a better thing, because then it makes more sense. Like, oh yeah, he's like killing the aliens and scavenging their bits and then like forming them into his own weapons, and that's cool. Yeah, okay. That would have been better. Overall, mediocre theme, but that's still quite good. Okay, the lone survivor. So I like this. I like this card. Just generally, because the militias are the weakest unit and they very rarely die. And so they get one of the biggest stat buffs. Like some of the other guys, it's like, oh, you get 1 more attack when you get their heroic version, or 1 more health. The normal militia, they're 2 1s. This doubles it. So it becomes a super militia, and he gets, hey, a pretty nice ability. If a reveal ability would deal this troop damage, prevent that damage, and deal that enemy 2 damage. And I actually really like that, because it's like, this is the lone survivor. He was the guy who was part of his own movie. He killed the aliens. Somehow he managed to make it, and he knows what's up with the aliens. He does not get surprised by anything that they do. I wish it was better than I Will Survive. It was something like, I've seen this before, or yeah, there's no stunt you can't pull that I'm not ready for. Something like that, that is like, oh yeah, they try to do the real effect, and he's like, no, I know what you're doing, and I'm going to counter it and do damage to you. It's good. It's a good card. And generally, I would say most of the cards in this game are really, really good. And I hope that you game designers, or people who just like games, are able to look at this and get an idea of what makes good theme. Because I really care about good theme in games, and I'm always thinking about it, and I'm always like, oh, if this has just been tweaked slightly, if these words have been changed just a bit, if this name had been done, and sometimes you have to change the art, and that's hard, and or sometimes it would be better if you modified an ability, which is the worst thing you want to do. You know, you want to have a good game, first and foremost. But, yeah. make good games and thematic games, theme should be the easiest part of the game. It really should. Now, the art, no, that's going to be hard. And the UI, that's going to be hard. But making it so the effects of the things that you do in a game match what the theme is telling you should be easy, because it's often the starting point of where we design games, although not always. And there really is no reason why it can't at least be better. Sometimes you can't make it perfect. Sometimes you have a really weird ability that you want in a game that makes the game good because it's a weird ability, and you can't really think of a thing that matches it. But still do your best. Do your best, game designers, and have Godspeed.